I am again come back to the discussion of the solved question paper of 2018. So let's start. Question number first is, what type of writing Walter Pater defined as the special and opportune art of the modern world? Options are the lyric, comic drama, the novel, D. Non-fiction prose. So what is the answer? The option number D is the answer. Non-fiction prose. If we discuss about its detail, Walter Horatio Pater was an English essayist, literary and art critic, and fiction writer, regarded as one of the great stylists. His works on Renaissance subjects were popular but controversial, reflecting his lost belief in Christianity. Non-fictional prose: any literary work that is based mainly on fact, even though it may contain fictional elements. Examples are the essay and biography. Defining non-fictional prose literature is an immensely challenging task. Pater was much admired for his prose style, which he strove to make worthy of his aesthetic ideals, taking great pains and fastidiously correcting his work. Pater is recognized as a master prose stylist and a leading exemplar of Impressionist criticism. The essay style concerns itself with the art of writing prose and finding the perfect word to convey a particular mood and meaning. The next question is, it was the first narrative on the life of a black woman slave to be published in England in 1831. It has profound influence on the abolition movement in Britain. Identify the book and its author. Option A. Mary Prince, The History of Mary Prince. B. Mattie Jane Jackson, The Story of Mattie J. Jackson. C. Elizabeth, Memoir of Old Elizabeth, a Colored Woman. D. Harriet Jacobs, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. So what is the answer? Option number A is the answer. Mary Prince, The History of Mary Prince. If we discuss about its detail, Mary Prince was a British abolitionist and autobiographer born in Bermuda to an enslaved family of African descent. Subsequent to her escape, when she was living in London, England, she wrote her slave narrative, The History of Mary Prince, 1831, which was the first account of the life of a black woman to be published in the United Kingdom. This first-hand description of the brutalities of enslavement, released at a time when slavery was still legal in Bermuda and British Caribbean colonies, has a galvanizing effect on the anti-slavery movement. It was reprinted twice in its first year. She became the first woman to present an anti-slavery petition to Parliament and the first black woman to write and publish an autobiography, The History of Mary Prince, a West Indian slave. The book was a key part of the anti-slavery campaign. It made people in Britain aware that although the slave trade had been made illegal, the horrors of life on the plantations continued for so many people. The book contributed to the debate in manner different from reasoned analysis or statistical arguments. Its tone was direct and authentic, and its simple but vivid prose contrasted with the more labored literary style of the day. Next question is, 1992 demolition of the disputed structure in Ayodhya produced two controversial literary responses. Identify them. Option A. Out of Place, The Algebra of Infinite Justice. B. Annals and Antiquities, Between Sunlight and Shadows. C. The Moor's Last Sigh and Lajja. D. Chronicles of Riot, Foretold and Shame. So what is the answer? Option number C is the answer, guys. The Moor's Last Sigh and Lajja. If we discuss about its detail, 𝗬𝗂𝗃𝗵 is a novel in Bengali by 𝗬𝗂𝗃𝗵 𝗂𝗃, a writer of Bangladesh. The book was first published in 1993 in Bengali and was subsequently banned in Bangladesh. 𝗂𝗃 dedicated the book to the people of Indian subcontinent, beginning the text with the words, "Let another name for religion be humanism." Lajja is a response of Taslima Nasreen to anti-Hindu riots that erupted in parts of Bangladesh. Soon after the demolition of Babri Masjid in India on 6 December 1992, the book subtly indicates that communal feelings were on the rise. The Hindu minority of Bangladesh was not fairly treated, and secularism was under shadow. The Moor's Last Sigh, novel by Salman Rushdie, published in 1995, is set in the Indian cities of Bombay and Cochin. The title is taken from the story of Bobadil Abu Abdullah Muhammad, the last Moorish king of Granada. The mother of the narrator and artist friend of the mothers each make a painting which they call the Moor's Last Sigh. The book draws on the variety of real historical figures and events, including the surrender of Granada and Bobadil, the demolition of the Babri Masjid, and the 1993 Bombay bombings. The Moor's Last Sigh traces 4 generations of the narrator's family and the ultimate effects upon the narrator. It won the Whitbread Prize for Best Novel, was shortlisted for Man Book Prize in 1995 and won the Ashtian Prize in 1996. The next question is, what is a peculiar about the reference in the following in some poets' names in the plural? It is freezing bleak day in January and I am looking for poetry. I see a few Chaucers, a few Shakespeare's and a hardcover $3 history of modern poetry published in 1987. Option A. Standard reference to more text of one poet. Unusual avant-garde metaphors no longer in use. Usually refers to biographies of poets in question. D. 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗵 use names for their respective works. So, what is the answer? The option number D is the answer. 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗵 use names for their respective works. If we discuss about its detail, a synecdoche is a figure of speech in which a term for a part of something refers to the whole of something or vice versa. A synecdoche is a class of metonymy, often by means of either mentioning a part for the whole or controversially the whole for one of its parts. These lines have been taken from 3 approaches to poetry by Virginie. Next question. Deconstructionist critics argue that texts are never free from option A equivocal and ironically unstable worldview of the author. Option B, the material conditions that determine the production and reception. C, the interpretations bestowed by the totalizing critic. D, distortions inherent in the rhetoricity of language. So what is the answer, guys? Option number D is the answer. Distortions inherent in the rhetoricity of the language. If we discuss about its detail, originated by the philosopher Jacques Derrida, deconstruction is an approach to understanding the relationship between text and meaning. Derrida's approach consisted of the conducting readings of text with an ear to what runs counter to the intended meaning or the structural unity of a particular text. Derrida believes that a text is always open to different infinite interpretations. Rhetoricity is the quality of being rhetorical, now chiefly literary theory, the quality of seeking to influence the response of a reader, the degree to which a text or discourse possesses this quality. Deconstructionism, as applied to literary criticism, is a paradox about a paradox. It assumes that all discourse, even all historical narratives, is essentially disguised self-revelatory messages. Being subjective, the text has no fixed meaning. So when we read, we are prone to misread, and that distortions are inherent. Next question is, what is honor? A word. What is that word honor? Ere a dream reckoning, who hath it? He that died to, O Wednesday, doth he feel it? No, though he hear it. No, is it insensible then? Ye to the dead, but will it not live with the living? No, why? Detraction will not suffer it, therefore I will none of it. Honor is a mere scutcheon. And so ends my catechism. Which character in the following Shakespeare's dramas made this statement about honor? So, options are A. Claudius in Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark. B. Falstaff in the King Henry IV Part 1st. C. Hotspur in King Henry IV Part 1st. D. Hamlet in the Prince of Denmark. So guys, what is the answer? The option number B is the answer. Falstaff in the King Henry IV Part 1. Detail. Henry IV Part First is a historical play by William Shakespeare, believed to have been written no later than 1597 in the soliloquy. Falstaff emphasizes the absurdity of dying for something that amounts to a mere abstract concept, something that offers no tangible material value. He proceeds by a pattern of self-questioning and literal answering, which leads him to conclude that since honor is only a prize for the dead, it has no real benefit and should not be sought after by living. Shakespeare includes cures around the world. Honor in this text emphasizes even in the written form Falstaff's detachment from the idea. Falstaff famously concludes his speech with the assertion, honor is a mere scutcheon, an emblem, image of designate death. Next question is, why did Plato banish the poet from his ideal state? Options are, poetry makes an artificial distinction between form and content. Option B, poetry deals with the form to the neglect the content. Option C, the poet can never produce a completely accurate replica of the reality it seeks to represent, and moreover, the purpose of art is not to describe reality but to change it. Option D, in representing the sensual aspects of the reality, the poet fails to discern the transcendental reality behind their appearance. So what is the answer, guys? Option number D is the answer. In the representing the sensual aspects of the reality, in the poet fails to discern the transcendent reality behind mere appearance. If we discuss about its detail, Plato was an Athenian philosopher during the classical period in ancient Greece and the founder of the academy, the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. He was a student of Socrates and teacher of Aristotle. In books 3rd and 9th of the Republic, 3rd and 10th of the Republic, Plato deduces that they are imitators of the world and therefore far from the truth. The other dangers of poets are that they corrupt youth and initiate the patience instead of the faculty of reason. The poet, with his words and phrases, is able to convince listeners that he knows that what he speaks of. Such is the sweet influence which melody and rhythm by nature have. Poetry, including the narratives of others' lives, appeals to the emotions. It feeds and waters the passions instead of drying them up. She lets them rule, although they ought to be controlled if mankind are ever to increase in happiness and virtue. In Book 10, Plato concludes that poetry must be banished from the hypothetical ideal society. Next question is, search the heads of the greatest rivers in the world. You shall find them but bubbles of the water. Who is the author of this line? Option A, Oscar Wilde. B, Francis Bacon. C, John Webster. D, R.B. Sheridan. So what is the answer? Option number C is the answer. John Webster. Its details. John Webster was an English Jacobean dramatist best known for his tragedies The White Devil and The Duchess of Malfi, which are often regarded as masterpieces of the early 17th century English stage. His life and career overlapped William Shakespeare's. Through these lines spoken by Boshola, Webster projected his views on the reality of the court. He was a great political critic. These lines mean that great people are often not as great as they seem to be. All the works mentioned are by D.H. Lawrence. David Herbert Lawrence was an English writer and poet. His collected works represent, among other things, an extended reflection upon the dehumanizing effects of the modernity and industrialization. Some of the issues Lawrence explores are sexuality, emotional health, vitality, spontaneity, and the instinct. Next question is, match the work with the characters. Name of the works. Characters name. Name of the works. Sons and Lover, Kangaroo, Woman in Love, The Rainbow. Characters are Rupert Birkin, Lydia Lenski, Miriam Levers, Richard Schomer. So what is the answer, guys? Option number B is the answer. If we discuss about its detail, all the works mentioned are by D.H. Lawrence. Okay. David Herbert Lawrence was an English writer and poet. His collected works represented, among other things, an extended reflection upon the dehumanizing effects of modernity and industrialization. Some of the issues Lawrence explores are sexuality, emotional health, vitality, spontaneity, and instinct. Option A3, Woman in Love 1920 is a novel. It is sequel to the earlier work Rainbow 1915. Rupert Birkin is a country school inspector who falls in love with Ursula Brangwen. Birkin's character can be loosely associated with D.H. Lawrence himself. He is a separated character with the passionate ideas about developing creative souls, but he also suffers many physical ailments and sicknesses. Option B for The Rainbow is a novel by British author D.H. Lawrence, first published in 1915. It follows three generations of Brangwen's family living in Nottinghamshire, particularly focusing on the individual's struggle to growth and fulfillment within the confining strictures of English social life. Lydia Lenski, married to the young doctor, became with him a patriarch and an emancipee. They were poor, but they were very conceited. She learned nursing as a mark of her emancipation. They represented in Poland, the new movement just began in Russia, but they were very patriotic and at the same time very European. Option C 1. Sons and Lovers is a semi-autographical novel by D.H. Lawrence, published in 1913, his first mature novel. It is psychological study of the familial and love relationship of a working class English family. Miriam is a virginal religious girl who lives on a farm near the morals, and she is Paul's first love. However, their relationship takes ages to move beyond the platonic and into the romantic. D2. Kangaroo is a novel by D.H. Lawrence, first published in 1923. It is set in Australia. Kangaroo is an account of a visit to New South Wales by an English writer named Richard Lovett Somers and his German wife Harriet in the early 1920s. This appears to be semi-autobiographical based on the 3 months visit to Australia by Lawrence and his wife Reda in 1922. Richard Somers is a highly autobiographical character. Lawrence wrote all but the last chapter of the novel during his 4 month stay in Australia, and many of the Richard's characteristics and concerns were those of Lawrence at the time. Today's last question is read the passage given below. Ah, what is a terrible is a hurt. If once into love's hand it come, all other griefs allow a part. Two other griefs and ask themselves but some. They come to us, but us love draws. He swallows us and never chose. By him as by chance sought. Whole ranks do die. He is the tyrant pike our hearts the fry. John Donne's 1633. Which sentence best paraphrases line of the passage above? Option A. Love tends to grab us and never let go. B. Distress comes in many forms but none lasts as long as heartache. 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 Unbeaten pain afflicts us, but we are lured by love. Option D. Emotions can damage us, but not as severely as love. So, what is the answer? Option number C is the answer. Unbeaten pain afflicts us, but we are lured by love. So, guys, in the next video, I will again come back to the discussion of the sole question paper of 2018. So, thank you.